Well, everybody, it is a snowy day out there, and it's a good day to stay in the shop with some shop heat. Today, I am in between some projects. I kind of need to get some things cleaned up and finished in the shop. There's several little projects I don't want to work on, and that's improving just the workshop. Some of the storage, some of the shelves. The shelf that I have back here is kind of a catch-all and a big mess. So I want to go through this shelf, get it a little more organized, and have it make more sense. Some of this stuff doesn't really even need to belong in a workshop. Most of it does, but some of it can go somewhere else. I'd like to make better use of this shelf. The other thing is, this is starting to become, I had good intentions when I put my tooling in here, but now it's starting to become just a mess, especially my pliers and that sort of thing. It's just tons of stuff in there. I don't need all that. But there's a variety in there, you know, that's where they go. That's fine there. But I want to bring up higher the things I use more often. So this second row, really, I don't get in here too often. But I've got my, down here, I don't know. I'd like to maybe bring this one up. I use the taps and dies quite a bit. This little toolbox, I want to put some end mills or something. I need to find a good spot for that. We can maybe build some shelving underneath here. Another thing I'd like to do is potentially move all this stuff off of here, leave the lathe, of course, put another cross brace from the front to the wall, and see if I can stiffen up this workbench a little bit. You probably noticed in several of the videos, this thing is just bolted to the plywood, really. So it flexes, you know. The wood itself is flexing, so it allows the lathe. So that might give me some more rigidity and help stabilize some of this setup. I've got something similar over here. I have a third leg in the back to support the weight of that mill. So that, I think, is still pretty good. Of course, you know, it's on a wooden workbench. You could really, you know, push the whole thing around if you wanted to, but I don't really see a big problem with that. But I would like to improve this. So for today, we are just going to do some workshop updates while I'm in between projects and I ponder that next engine build, shop tool, or whatever it is I decide to make. I'll bring you along for the ride and I hope you enjoy. Well, this is where I'm going to be working for this part of this video anyway. We need to kind of reorganize things, move some things out of here. There's things on the shelf stacking up that actually belong in the toolbox. I think what we first need to do is get over here and see what inefficient use of the space we're using for some of these tools and see what we can do to move some of this stuff to the toolbox. I can tell you the first thing is I don't think the drills need to be in that toolbox on the top. There's a lot of space up there. I think I can find a better place for those. I've kind of got some drill bits and hole saws, things like that. I feel like maybe this stuff should be maybe in a drawer farther down. So really, I think my first goal is going to be to clean up this top shelf. Maybe we can make better use of this. I've also got some toolboxes. Maybe some of the stuff that's very seldom used should go into one of these toolboxes, like this one. Let me show you what's up here in the toolbox here. You can see there's not a whole lot. We've got this. These were on sale. And I know I've complained about them, but they're actually not too bad. I have to kind of go back on the Harbor Freight Warrior drill bits. You know, the smaller ones you end up breaking for no more expensive than this complete set is. And it was on sale again. I thought I'm going to go ahead and buy another one of those because I have dulled and ruined my 1/2 inch and there's a few others. I just mark them with an X and a Sharpie so I know that particular drill is going to be a problem. Also got some hole saws. This was shared to me. A really cool Milwaukee hole saw adapter. My hole saws will actually fit on there, which is really great. Some, you know, Christmas tree type sheet metal hole saw, easy out, things like that. Some router bits, some hammers. This stuff really doesn't need to be up here. It doesn't seem very efficient to be in this 3-4 inch space of storage that I have. Now these fit in here really nice, so I'll keep these up here, but we're going to go through these and see if we can figure out something better. And then the drawers and stuff, we've got You know, this doesn't seem very efficient. This is very themed. This is electronic stuff. Hobby electrics, right? Small wires, some small vices, you know, timers. Like, that doesn't need to be in a toolbox. The only thing machining related would be these punches, center punches, and that sort of thing. I don't know if I'm just going to sit here and have you watch me pick through everything, but what we'll do is a time-lapse overview of me going through this stuff, and hopefully we can find a better place for most of these components. Creating so many chips with this was the wobbler engine, the first engine that I made. I just started saving it just to see what kind of swarf I'd have. Most of this is steel, a little bit of brass, but for the most part this is how much steel I chewed off of a lot of the material that I was working with. But I don't think I need to really hang on to this. I'm going to chuck this, free up some more room on that shelf. Got some big ticket items off of the shelf now. Some of this stuff was consuming a lot of shelf space, especially that thing. And we've got our plus minus gauges all the way up to a 1/2 inch down to, what is that, 61 thou, pretty small. And so this is my minus set to 1/4, and then that goes up to a 1/2. We've got our thread gauges here. I've got enough room for another couple large bulky items, and maybe something can lay on top of here. We have our parallels, but all of this stuff was really kind of consuming a lot of shelf space and drawer space. So just making better use of the storage that we have up here is going to free up other space where we can start shifting things around and make better use of all the space that we have. After all, this is a tiny workshop, and we got to be efficient in here in order to store all the wonderful tools that I have. That's a big part of the hobby, is getting the fun tools and things like that to use for all the projects we work on. I think I'm gonna stop recording for a little bit. I'm just gonna make some progress on this, and I'll bring you back and show you an update when I get to a point that's got something to show. Otherwise, it's just me standing over here looking at things and trying to decide where I want to put them. So I'll bring you right back, and we'll give you an update. Well, I thought I'd bring you back and give you a quick update. We're trudging through. This turned out to be much bigger task than I intended it to be, but I think it's time we do this. I have had just stuff thrown everywhere over the last few years, and it's time to reorganize everything and make better use of this space. So I'll give you a quick update what we're doing here. We're going through every drawer in this thing. We're going to put thick and bulky items up here. We're going to try to redo our wrench system. I've already combined quite a bit. We'll give you a full walkthrough, but I got some empty drawers up here now. We'll figure out what to do with that and that. But I've combined quite a bit. This is much better use. I still got a little more room there, but I cut the tabs off of these things, just trying to make better use of this drawer. But I use this drawer a lot. I'm always coming in here for set screws, washers, nuts, the different fasteners and everything. I use this drawer a lot. So I don't want it on the bottom. I wanted it towards the top. These two drawers are empty. And, you know, we've got more room in here, but I'm trying to keep all the like tools in the same drawer, because I'm finding by going through all this that I'm finding just random stuff, like drill bits. I had them, anything drill related, I had all over the place. So I'm putting them in one place so I know where to go whenever I need to. I thought I would bring you over here. I thought I'd bring you down here and give you an update. I forgot I had these as well. My dad gave me these. It's Starrett feeler stock. All kinds. Here's 9 thou feeler gauge. You know, you can use this for when you're working on parts and you need to space something out. There's a 3 thou, 8 thou, 6. So there's kind of a whole set here. It's not a complete set. A 3, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, put the 3 down here. So it goes from 3, 8, 9. That might be handy someday, though. I'm glad I came across these, but these didn't, where I found these, they were just crammed in a drawer underneath a whole bunch of stuff, never to be used or seen again, the light of day. There's a 3 thou. That's thinner than a piece of paper. A piece of paper is generally 4 thou. I feel like these are the kinds of things that need to go in the Gerstner toolbox. I did find an old feeler gauge set. When I salvaged those old tools from that, there was a destroyed feeler gauge set, a couple of them anyway. So I hung on to these. They're actually kind of handy for working with thin materials. So I'll probably, you know, find a good spot for these, but similar to where these will be. In addition to that, my brother gave me this tray. He's working on his workshop. He's got this really nice organization system. I'm too cheap to buy anything. He gave me this, and it's a metric and standard combo sort of tool. I'm gonna see if this works. It'll fit in my drawer, but if this works, I'll be able to take the amount of space that these two apparatus were taking up into one tray. So we're gonna see if we can make this thing work. I evaluated this and I don't like it. Sorry, bro. I know you're probably watching, but I do not like this tray. I don't like the way it's set up. I know you can read these numbers where they are, but by the time I've got some larger wrenches, by the time I throw those back in the drawer, this set doesn't save me any space. And grabbing and going this thing, I'm not a fan of it. I'm going to abandon this and go back to the tray system that we had before, which were these right here. So I'll put them all back and we'll just continue organizing. I took a little break, but we're making a lot of progress. I'll bring you up to speed. It's just like a bomb's exploded in here, but we are making good progress. We had, I don't know, about 8 inches of snow, and it is cold. It's -7. Wind chills are going to be -35 today. Get the heat going and try to finish up this project. This turned out to be a whole lot more than I expected. Basically, yesterday, finished going through this entire toolbox, trying to make sure I put like materials in drawers, and I'm going to end up labeling these at some point. We went through and I cleaned up my screwdrivers and punches, got a little extra room there. We've got our wrenches again. I'm not thrilled with this setup, but it does work for me. I come to this drawer quite a bit for different wrenches. You know, a lot of this side didn't change, but I did clear this out. So we have a lot of storage here. I'm going to make better use of this. It just had some random electrical, taller items, things like that. Squares and measurement items there. We got an empty drawer. This is where I put digital meters, some electrical related parts, and then, you know, snap ring pliers. I didn't really have a place for them. They don't fit in the plier drawer. And then PPE. This ended up working out, so I left everything there. But I still have a couple more empty drawers on both sides here. This one's nearly full, but I think there's one empty drawer there, a couple there. Now that I have that stuff sorted, I've now got, you know, if I come across different tools, I can add them to the shelves in the designated areas, so to speak. Today I want to tackle this shelf, and most of it's going to be okay, but I'm going to go through the piles of stuff that are just kind of making no sense. You know, the paint and stuff, the only paint that I keep in here is related to what I do in this shop. Otherwise, I've got storage on the other side of this wall where I keep just general paint for different things. Maybe make use of that shelf up there a little bit better. I do want to put some support, at the very least, a couple 2x4s in addition to help support this lathe and prevent some of this wobble, so to speak. It's just because it's on plywood. There's no support. So hopefully that will strengthen that and provide a little more rigidity there. I'll bring you back when I got some updates. Everything in the shop, so I might as well go through this as well. Over the years, I've just chucked all my little scraps, my little cut-offs, my little pieces in and thrown them in this bin. All this little reject pieces, interesting shapes and all that. But I think it's time that we discard this stuff. I don't see any reason to keep this stuff around. You know, I thought, well, maybe I'll use this disc or something. I've got plenty of material now that I wouldn't turn to these parts for any projects. There's just really not much in here. I'm sure some of it could be useful someday, but I'm going to discard everything. So we're gonna get rid of those. We're gonna get rid of all this. We'll get rid of these. Get rid of these. And that. Don't need that. Not sure what that goes to, but it's all ground and messed up, so I'll probably get rid of that. Some tubes. The rest of this is kind of hefty material. I may find a use for this someday. I'm going to throw this away. This is hardened steel. I tried to drill a hole in it, ruined some drill bits. It's not worth messing with this. It's just not worth it to me. I was going to make a bump stop out of this thing, but let's just get rid of that too. This is broken because I over torqued, tried to tighten something down too tight. This is a broken rod. This is a broken rod of some sort. I don't. I've got plenty of other material. This is a bent chunk. I'm not going to use that with a weld on it. These pieces maybe. This took me 2 days to reorganize the items in my shop. I didn't reorganize the shop. I didn't change anything around. But I went through all of my toolboxes, whether they're the upright ones or the ones that are standalone, and I changed everything around. So now everything should be where it's supposed to be, and all the similar tools are going to be together, and we also labeled things in the shop. Again, everything looks the same, but we just went through everything. We cleaned. Also, we did a deep cleaning. I swept. I got rid of all the chips that I could find. We cleaned up underneath the workbench. Cleaned all this stuff. I didn't move any of that. We didn't need to, but I did pull out the stuff behind. I pulled all that out, and we actually put in 2 braces underneath. Now, it would be nice to maybe put an upright, from the floor up to kind of brace that, but it definitely stiffened up the lathe. It's going to flex because of the way it's just a bolt over there, and there's just 2 bolts holding it on. So it's just going to have a tendency to flex a little bit, but adding those 2 cross braces did stiffen up this workbench. So we improved that situation. I went through all those toolboxes and put things where they make more sense. I moved just a few things up here where they make sense. We went through this entire toolbox. We've got, like I said in a previous shot, We put the big bulky items in the top to take advantage of the depth that's inside the top of this. And that's just where all this big bulky box type items are. We labeled where our just different tools are. Obvious, it's pretty self-explanatory. And I went through and I cleaned all these drawers out. Got rid of the excessive extra tools I had. Put those, I'm going to give those to the kids. There's our sockets. Just anything that's socket related. And this is more miscellaneous. Measuring devices. Oh, the other thing I did was I made sure to move things that are used more often to more reasonable heights, so I didn't have to bend over all the time. Sort of PPE, gloves, and that sort of thing. This one is got just a lot of old tools, extra supplies, zip ties, things like that. It's just mostly supplies. And as you can see, the rest are labeled. I did end up with one small drawer empty and two large drawers empty. And basically this one's still empty. But you can see everything's got a place. Everything that I use often was going to be higher. My taps and dies are up higher. I'm going to use those quite a bit. Pliers, use those all the time. But I did get rid of some pliers I didn't want or need in there as well. And this just miscellaneous razor blades and stuff, air tools, all of my bits for drills, things like that, saw blades, hand saws, sawzall, anything like that. And this is my abrasives, things for grinding wheel, things for the die grinders, things like that. What else? We got extra towels for just shop rags and that sort of thing, and just some miscellaneous stuff. We got my forge that I haven't yet turned into. I need to get to that. Some more storage, smaller but longer stuff I just kind of put in here. And then I went through, moved everything off that didn't need to be, and I kind of put everything I probably don't touch very often on this shelf. And then up here I left room for more tools and things that I use all the time. And then I've got more storage available and a little bit more up there. And more importantly, I put all my drill bits in here. These things were kind of getting to be everywhere. So anything that's drill bits or router bits, those all are in there. Ended up with some empty drawers over here too. Or JB Weld and thread locker, that sort of thing. That's in here. Another empty drawer, which is fantastic. These are my lathe tools. And this one's lathe and some mill attachments. And the bottom one has some oils and adhesives and just different things like that. As you can see, we got the shop cleaned up, ready for that next project, and I am tired. I'm going to call it a weekend. It doesn't look different in here, but it is different. It's going to make a lot more sense for me when I'm working on projects. I'm going to be able to find everything I'm looking for. I'm just happy to have this done. That turned out to be a way bigger project than I thought it would. You know, sometimes you got to stop and rethink what you got in a tiny workshop like this. I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Let's get on to that next task. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm in between projects here, and I thought it'd be good to show you a couple new things I got. I mentioned my spindle bearings in a previous video. I took the spindle apart in a lathe, and they're tapered roller bearings. So I went ahead and picked some up because I'm not 100% sure if the ones that I have are good or bad. So I thought, let me go ahead and get a set of these so that I have them for if I ever do want to tackle replacing it. Again, these are 3209s. I measured these, and this is a 45 millimeter and a 60 millimeter, I believe. And that's my spindle bore. The 38 millimeter ID of the spindle bore, it's about 1.5 inches, is the larger of the spindle bores that are on these mini lathes. Some of them are closer to 1/2 inch, I think. They're much smaller. They use the 30, I believe, don't quote me, 3206, which is in my manual. So that's something to figure out before you go buying bearings. Make sure you get the right ones, but we got them here, and we may be installing these someday. Pretty affordable. I didn't go with the most expensive out there. It's a cheap mini lathe. Maybe someday, if I tackle it again and I really know what I'm doing, because I don't. I use hammers and I pound them in and I use what I got in the shop. I thought this is going to be better than maybe what's in there. I'm going with that for now. Someday, if I learn more about bearings and installing them and using pullers, or create a setup that I can install it properly, I might spend the money on some quality bearings. But for now, that's what we have. The second thing I purchased is I've been doing, since I started working on these model engines, I've been doing a lot of edge finding. And I don't mind the little wobbler version. That seems to work pretty well. I've created 2 successful engines with that method to find all of my measurements. But I thought, I know in the CNC world they've got these optical digital edge finders, and I thought, you know, that's something I want to give a try. So I found these on Amazon. It comes with, this is optical edge finder from there. And Kuhn Electronic. Again, it's for, generally these are for CNC machines, but it has a little certificate of inspection and some specs and things like that. But it comes in this little case. I mean, it's packaged very nicely. It seems to be of quality, of decent quality. Let's pull this thing out of here. It's the portion that does the business end is nice and thinner. I'm glad it's not total thickness, because you need to be able to get into where you're going. Let's put a battery in this thing. Let's see what it can do. Of course, they got these special batteries I'll never be able to find. I know I can find these. I think some garage door openers use those. Let me read this and see. Just kidding. Do not require rotary measurements. Let's get it in the mill. I'm not sure me using my fingers here is a good test. We got this mounted in here, but let's center something. We could center the vise, but that's boring. Let's throw something in here. And let's just say that for some reason I need to drill a hole in the center of this round stock. Let's see if we can do that. Find the center using this digital scale. Get it out there. I'm checking to see for consistency. Let's see. 2/10 off there. So 23998. Let's do the x-axis, and then let's just see where center is, and then see if it looks right. We'll use a gauge too, and let's just see what happens. Let's finish this test out. It sure looks centered, but let's put something in here that can actually show us a point, and we'll make a mark, and then we'll do a little bit more testing. But if that works, that's a whole lot easier than running that little wobbler. It just moves over, beeps, there you go. Well, I don't know if you can see it up here, but we have got, you can see that. We have our x-axis, we have our y-axis centered, and we use the digital beeper. Let's see, we'll just put a little spot on here, and then we'll use a cylinder. Well, you'll see. Let's see what we got. That's all we're gonna do. And let's take this over to the bench and let's see if we actually got a center. It took longer than it should have. All right, let's see. Let's just see how this is looking. So if we put that here, we just draw a little bit of a line there. Okay. So just to show everybody that this thing worked or it didn't, you know, camera angles and these wide angle lenses with the GoPros and all that stuff, it can skew the results. But as you can see, that is a center, as center as I was going to make it with just the crude setup that I had. So it works. This little digital beeper thing, CNC center finder, I dig it. I'm going to enjoy using this thing. I'm looking forward to it. I know that it's only going to work in certain applications due to its size. This is, I used a 3/4 inch, sorry, I used a 13/16 collet in order to mount this, and I put it up as far as I could. It's only going to be practical if you're using R8 collets or something with additional headroom, because it does stick down quite a bit more than those shorter wobbler type center finders. So you're probably going to have to use those still, rely on those. But all in all, if I can use this, I'm going to use this. This is pretty cool. New little gadget, but I think that will help speed some things along, and I'm glad to have that. Hope you enjoyed. Let's move on to that next task. Everybody, welcome back. I'm going to throw this in a Messin' in the Shop video episode. This is just a short little clip. We're going to update the sticker board back here behind me. Now, these are a couple stickers that I had acquired prior to even starting YouTube, I think. I bought a tool from a couple of these channels, and then they sent me, they just included a sticker with the tool that I bought. Since I have them, and they are also YouTubers, both channels I enjoy watching from time to time. Mortsky Repair, his is interesting. He works on automobiles, and Hand Tool Rescue. This is a really good channel. Highly recommend watching all of his videos. He's a funny guy, does some really cool work. But we're going to put these on the sticker board. I am not going to put them up here with the precious space. I think this is reserved for the fellow YouTubers who are like my channel and into hobby machining and collaborate with the channel and are part of the community. That's where I want to showcase highlight those channels. These are channels I appreciate as well. They're just bigger channels, much bigger than mine probably will ever get. But I'm going to go ahead and put them up here anyway, and we'll probably put them down here in the corner. As you can see, we found a nice spot for both of those stickers. I'd recommend you check out both channels. They're very interesting. I like auto mechanics and diesel mechanic shows. You know, the big guys out there, big channels that are working on that kind of stuff. I appreciate both of these channels as well. Go check out Mortsky Repair. Him and Duff Dog will give you a good time on their channel. And then Hand Tool Rescue, awesome channel. Go check them out. Now that the sticker board is up to date, let's get on to that next task. Well, I decided to take the route of replacing the taps that I break instead of buying a whole new $200 set. Doesn't mean I won't ever buy like a gear wrench or some other nice $300, $200, $300, $400 set, but I'm finding, as most of you have already pointed out, you're going to find the common sizes you use, and you're just not going to use all the others. I still like having a variety because with what I do in this workshop, it's just piddly little things, and every once in a while you hit that oddball size tap. It's nice having a full set that has a wide range of taps and dies. But in this case, I have basically every tap that would be in the set that I have, other than M47 tap that I broke. I needed to buy one of those. I was going to buy a YG tap because I really like those things. Those are like $11 each, and I found this set for a set of metric for, I don't know, it was $7 or $8. I know these are not going to be top quality, but let's see what they look like, and you know, maybe they'll be better than what I got. So there's quite a few in here. These are small metric taps, but I do have my M4 and several smaller ones if I need them. Here we have a nice little metric pack. These are going to be good, especially since I'm working on smaller engines and I've got some metric set screws and things like that. So these are going to come in handy. I just wanted to share that with you. This is the route I'm going to go for now, but who knows? I'll get a set someday, but for now, this will complete every tap so far that I hadn't before and have now. Well, let's get on to that next task. That next task is to try to refine my micrometer stand, the clamping mechanism. Many of you, if you watched that build, you know I kind of just finished this. I probably finished this a little bit quickly, or you know, I just wanted to get it done. But the problem is this clamping mechanism is not really finished. I wouldn't call it a finished part. Let me show you. The edges that I have are very squared off, and the pivot area is just squared off as well. And what I really think it needs, because when I clamp that onto my micrometer, it's got a real sharp edge. I don't want that on my mic. So I think what I'm going to do is take this over to the grinder, slide this in there and round this portion here so that it can actually pivot nicely with a rounded portion, and it's more of a smoother action, so to speak. In addition to that, I'm going to round this top as well, and that way when it clamps onto something, no matter where it hits, it's going to be more of a rounded, gentle surface to clamp against the micrometer or whatever I'm using the stand for. The idea was to soften these edges to see if we could get that thing to maybe function a little bit nicer, play a little nicer. So if we put that in there, that does kind of roll. That's good. And if we grab our micrometer, we don't want to crank that down too tight. However, you know, maybe someday I'll replace this 1/4 with a nice thumb screw of some sort. But here we go. We have a 1-inch. Let's test this thing out. We have a 1-inch. Let's see how we do. And that is spot on 1 inch. And that's easy to read my part. Having a hands-free system, if you're doing a lot of inspection, especially around these model engines and things that need some precise measurements, this thing is super handy. And now I don't have to worry about or be concerned about this thing marring up my expensive measuring metrology instruments. It's nice. This is really nice to be able to inspect things and do some measurements without trying to fumble about. At any rate, this is a much needed improvement, and that brings this task to a close. Let's get on to that next task. Hey everybody, it's time for that next task, and this will be the final task of this Messin' in the Shop episode. But today we're going to do a little bit of hot bluing. I'm going to close this video out with some hot bluing. I recently made lathe dogs, and I've got these metal tangs or dog legs, so to speak, that have exposed metal. Now I could use Bow Shield or some other rust preventative type maintenance, but I haven't hot blued anything for a while, and I think these are a great candidate for that. It just feels like a good topic and action for today. Now, besides that, I've got a couple other things that I keep battling rust with. I want to go ahead and hot blue those too while I have everything out to help prevent some of the rust on those items as well. Let's go down and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the things I think I would like to also hot blue are going to be these two knobs here, as well as the top nut, so to speak, of my quick change tool post lever. They're not rusty, but I have to use Scotch-Brite on them from time to time, and I just think the metal that I used is prone to rusting. So I'm going to go ahead and take these off here, give them a quick Scotch-Brite, and we're going to hot blue those as well, since we're going to have everything out. Now, to hot blue, what do we need? We need some oil. At least how I do it. I'm sure there's proper ways to do it. I got some oil in here, and we also need our fire brick. I like to use this to keep things safe. You know, when I'm heating it up, I'll heat it up on this fire brick. Let's go back down here and grab the oil. Oh, we also need some pliers so we can fish it back out of there. And I always tend to use like these little guys here, or maybe these bigger ones might work for today. Let's use these. I think I can get that around my part, so when they're in the bottom of that oil, I can pull them out of there. So we're going to work over here. Obviously I want to be as safe as possible, so we want to move some of this stuff out of the way. Those are going to be hot blued. That is not. We certainly don't need that. And I think this is going to be a good surface to work on. So what we'll do, we have our fire brick here. We'll put our oil over here. And we have this. And there's one more component that we need to be able to do this. Let's go back down here and grab this guy. We need heat. We need a heat source to get those parts up to suitable temperature to polymerize the oil. That's what I think is happening really. As you're polymerizing the oil, there's a nice coating on the outside of your parts and keeps the rust from coming back. So here's the plan of attack. We've got the top nut portion that I created for the lock lever and the two knobs. I think what we're going to do first is the big one. The big one's going to heat up the oil quite a bit, and then I think it actually hot blues better that way. This will have more heat than the others. So let's start with this one, and then we'll move on to these others. They're going to smoke because there's some oil residue inside the hole, so don't be alarmed. But that's what we're going to do, and we'll get this in the oil. You can see it's starting to change to a straw color, and then it'll change to a blue color, I think, or it might be blue then straw, but once it starts changing colors, that's when you're going to want to get it into the oil. I like to go a little past that. That way it's hot enough to really do its thing. Let's get it in there. Now we're just going to leave that in there to polymerize and do its thing. It's hot, and we got these other pieces to work on, but I think you get the picture. And you just got to be super careful. By the way, I do have my fire extinguisher right here behind me. If something goes wrong, got to be careful. You got to make sure you got all the right equipment and gear for when you're working on this. All this stuff is very, very, very hot. That oil has been brought up to temperature. It's hot. The fire brick, don't be fooled that it's a cool thing. It's hot. Everything's hot. Be very, very careful. At this stage, I let things sit, let things cool down, and I just don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to get burnt. So we need to let all this stuff cool down. Then we'll come back and we'll evaluate how things look. One of the knobs I didn't get as hot as the others, so it might be a little lighter blued, but we're going to kind of compare them and see how they do in time over on the lathe anyway. There we go. This is the one I didn't get to the same temperature, but it is kind of a nice blue color. Big one here. So now we just need to let this cool down. It's on a nice cold plate, so we'll just let that do its thing. Let those cool down. Might as well clean this off. was cooled down. It's still warm, but it's cooled down enough to where we can put this away. Get it out of our way anyway. This fire brick is also cooled down plenty. We can put that away. Finally, we can clean the oil off of these things. They should be cooled down enough. Laying here on this metal. Oh yeah, they're cool. This one's kind of got some discoloration around the side. Now I don't know if that was rust or if I just got it too hot in that area, but overall that looks good. Here's one of the handles. That one I got a little bit, was this the one? I think this one was the cooler. I didn't get this one as hot as the others. It's slightly bluer, so maybe I got this one to a proper temperature and the others are too hot because they're more black. But regardless, they look pretty good. And of course our lathe dog ears, dog legs. Let's, I want to compare this. I'll show you one I did a long time ago just so you can see how well this does help with the rust proofing. Comparison, this is the tailstock die holder that I made. I use this quite a bit, and I'd made this at least 2 years ago, and there's not a speck of rust on this thing. It is holding up very well. Looks nice too. That hot bluing just seems to do the trick. But this is the same mystery metal stock. Actually, I think it's just mild steel. This was given to me from a subscriber early on, or a viewer, subscriber. But this turned out really good. I use this thing all the time. And then this was my first prototype, which is still functional, carriage stop that goes into the latheways. I can put this down in there, turn this, and stop the lathe, the ways anytime I need to. It's adjustable. You can actually add other additional parts to this if you want, but I hot blued this. Again, this was at least a year ago I made this, and there's not a speck of rust on this. It just works really well. And now you can see how these turned out. This one's more shiny than the others. Looks really good, actually. I like this one. And then we've got our lathe dog. So that's what those will end up looking like. Pretty simple part, but that'll keep these things from rusting as well. Turned out pretty good. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I think it turned out pretty good. I was a little bit worried that the clash of the black knobs with the everything else kind of being silver and other colors, I thought it might look bad, but it actually looks pretty good. And we got some rust prevention to boot. Bring you down here and check it out. Turned out pretty good. These should hopefully prevent them from rusting, but it matches the body of this now, and I think this is good. Good little upgrade. As for the original intent here, we got our Lathe dog legs hot glued. Those are also going to be protected from rust. And now we have another shop-made tool, which we will get to using here in the future. Well, everybody, that brings this episode of Messing in the Shop to a close. As always, I appreciate everybody for subscribing. I appreciate all you viewers. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It really helps out the channel. I hope to see you on the next one. Let's get on to that next project.